So, walking itself is truly an art, and one of our most common activities of daily living. It is a constant active balance of external and internal forces, and sometimes even style. It can be changed and modified to help us on runways, the roadside sobriety tests, and even the slippery streets of Yellowknife. It doesn't always go right, which is not that often, or which is often a YouTuber's delight, but most often we stay on our feet. We stay on our feet because we keep our center of mass inside of our support system. Our center of mass, which is our cumulative sort of force all around our body, which is centered here, can stay inside of our sort of support frame. If we move outside of our support frame, we fall over. Our support frame, which is our feet, if we move forward out of it, we start to fall forward, and if we move it back, we start to fall backwards. Normally, we stay inside of that support frame because we're not all falling over, but that's how we start the momentum of movement. By moving our center of mass forward, our force falls forward, and our bodies are lucky enough to kind of catch ourselves with our feet. By slowing down, we kind of push ourselves back. As we develop momentum by walking, this process becomes easier. So each foot that we put forward pushes us forward or further forward. This is easy enough, but it takes a lot of complexity inside of our body. It's a lot more complicated than just pushing force in front of ourselves. It's kind of like a finely tuned instrument. When we do it properly, we move lithely and smoothly, and when it goes wrong, we get shin splints, plantar fasciitis, and sometimes we even get low back pain. For more detail about walking or the mechanics of walking, there are two phases, stance and swing. Stance phase is when our foot is on the ground. So when our heel hits the ground, when our foot or midfoot is on the ground, and when our toe comes off. The other is swing, so as we can imagine, the other leg swings through the air and we move forward. To go through these phases, we need our muscles, our bones, and our ligaments. Our muscles contract, such as our glute, pushing us forward, and as our foot catches, our opposite muscles on the other side of our leg stop us and hold us up. When they fire properly and in sequence, we move in perfect synchronicity. If we fall behind or it doesn't work properly, our body doesn't so much work as an engine anymore, it starts to fall apart. It basically develops into this sort of pattern of cyclic relaxation and contraction, which makes our body sort of like I said, a fine-tuned instrument, or as this car engine describes, an engine. A good example is our foot. In our foot, there's 26 bones, 33 joints, 106 ligaments, and 19 muscles and tendons. To just give you one cool example of the biomechanics of our foot is our big toe. As our foot hits the ground, our big toe raises up. Every single person in this room does this, and if you don't, you're doing it wrong. And as you do that, the foot arches up and creates sort of a support system for the weight of our body. What it does is it shortens the length of our foot and allows forces in our body to kind of ricochet up through our body. Without our toe raising up, the patterns fall apart and we develop problems. It transforms a bag of bones into a rigid structure that works properly. We have started to figure things out. For example, our running shoes can help us. So humans have developed technology that helps us move along. It basically cushions the forces and takes those forces and helps us prevent dysfunction. The more forces you have, the more likely you are to have problems. So the cushioning basically just supports us. The lower leg is also it's there, but it's also just designed basically to move our foot. The muscles every single muscle in our leg actually passes into the foot except one, and it acts as a giant lever, as you can see. The toes are pushed off the ground there, helping foot motion. Again, we move to the knees. Less moving parts than the foot, but equally important. It bears large amounts of weights and is the largest joint in the human body. The knee is a weight bearer and also helps us move our foot into the correct position and prevents the foot from dragging as we walk. Like the ankle, if your knee becomes unstable or unbalanced, you'll have to change the way you walk. When a simple change occurs, such as the kneecap moving slightly to the side, we can have problems. Very few of us in our lives will actually have knee pain, so clearly we're doing something right. But it is very simple for tiny modifications to cause us problems. The body, from feedback from the brains and the nervous system, can actually send signals back and forth to correct those sims through simple little changes like muscles tightening on one side or the other side. These minute changes affect how far we step, where we put our weight, or even which bones hit the ground, returning us to health. The hips provide stability, improve mobility in the legs, and are major force producers. As we move, our hips sway up and down from side to side, allowing the legs to be more easily propelled forward by lifting them off the ground in conjunction with our knees. They also, along with the glute muscles, pull the leg back and help us propel off the ground as we move forward. Again, like every other part of our body, it can be affected causing dysfunction. When we lift a heavy box or even the tiniest little pencil, low back pain or hip pain can cause us to stop moving properly. Consciously, we correct our pain by taking weight off, bending forward, or doing anything we can to stop that pain. This very broad overview, as it kind of suggests, our body is in balance with each other. The complexity of walking allows us to be perfectly positioned and balanced, and even the micro changes in our body can become dysfunctional and develop to injury and disease. But more often, they function through the stresses, the amount of work that we do them, and as probably most of you sitting at the desks, staring at your computer at your government desk jobs. And if they don't correct themselves from our brain and body's feedback, it is sometimes necessary to have those kind of mechanics change for us. So chiropractors and physiotherapists, we do that for you. We modify the strength, function, and support systems of the body and ensure they function properly. When we eat well, exercise, and take care of our body works in perfect unison and synchronicity with itself. This allows us to walk to tuck, navigate the slippery sidewalks of Yellowknife, or hike our way up the most picturesque mountain.